Liam was a 20-year-old man with a kind heart and big dreams. He worked hard every day in his parents' old noodle shop. The shop was small and sat in the market street of Riverside Town. The street was always busy, filled with people and noise. But no matter how busy the town was, Liam's shop had few customers. Every morning, Liam opened the shop with hope in his heart. He would clean the tables, prepare fresh ingredients, and boil the broth. The smell of noodles and spices filled the air, warm and inviting. But most people walked past the shop, not stopping to taste his food. Liam sat by the counter, watching the door and waiting for customers. He dreamed of turning this little shop into a famous restaurant chain. In his mind, he could see his restaurants in cities far and wide. But dreams alone were not enough to keep the shop open and running. The shop was barely making money, just enough to pay for supplies. Liam often felt defeated, sitting in the quiet shop late at night. The shop walls, once bright with color, now looked old and faded. Still, he refused to give up. He knew he had to keep trying. "I can do this," Liam told himself as he cleaned the empty tables. "This shop is my family's legacy, and I won't let it fade away." He thought about new ideas, ways to bring in more customers. Perhaps he could change the menu or create a special dish. Maybe he could make the shop look more modern and welcoming. Late into the night, Liam sat with a notebook writing down his plans. The streets outside grew quiet, but his mind stayed full of ideas. He didn't know how, but he was determined to make his dream come true. Liam's heart burned with hope, even in the face of many challenges. Little did he know, the biggest challenge of all was just around the corner. One quiet afternoon, a man in a sharp suit walked into the shop. He looked out of place in the small, humble noodle shop. Liam quickly stood up from behind the counter, surprised to see him. "Good afternoon," the man said, his voice calm and confident. "My name is Mr. Felix. I'm a businessman passing through town." Liam greeted him politely and handed him a menu, feeling nervous. Mr. Felix sat down at the cleanest table and looked around the shop. "This place has charm," he said with a smile. "What do you recommend?" Liam hesitated for a moment, then suggested his signature noodles. He quickly prepared the dish, pouring all his care into the cooking. The smell of spices and broth filled the air as the noodles were served. Mr. Felix took a bite, his face lighting up with genuine delight. "These are incredible," he said. "Where did you learn to cook like this?" Liam explained that he had learned everything from his late parents. He told Mr. Felix about his dream of expanding the noodle shop. Mr. Felix listened carefully, nodding as he finished the delicious meal. "This food is too good to stay hidden in a small shop like this," he said. "You have talent, Liam. You should think bigger, much bigger." Liam's eyes widened. No one had ever said such words to him before. "Do you really think so?" he asked, his voice filled with curiosity. "Absolutely," Mr. Felix replied. "Your noodles could be famous." He took out a small notebook and jotted down a few words. "You have the skills, Liam. All you need is the courage to grow." Mr. Felix placed money on the table, much more than the price of the meal. "Consider this my investment in your future," he said with a wink. Before Liam could say anything, Mr. Felix stood up and walked to the door. "Think about what I said," he added. "Great things start with small steps." As the door closed behind him, Liam stood in silence, deep in thought. For the first time in a long while, he felt a spark of hope. Maybe his dream wasn't so impossible after all. A week after their first meeting, Mr. Felix returned to the shop. This time, he came with a warm smile and a clear purpose. Liam, he began, how is your dream coming along? Liam hesitated but admitted, I still don't know where to start. Mr. Felix nodded thoughtfully and leaned in closer. What if I help you? He asked. I know some people who can assist. Liam's eyes lit up. You would do that for me? Of course, Mr. Felix replied. But you'll need some initial funds. He explained that a private investor could lend money with low interest. It's a small risk, he added, but the rewards are worth it. Liam hesitated, the idea of borrowing money making him nervous. Seeing his doubt, Mr. Felix gave him a reassuring smile. Trust me, Liam, you have talent. This is your chance to shine. After a few days of consideration, Liam finally agreed. With Mr. Felix's help, the loan was approved faster than Liam expected. The money arrived and changes began almost immediately. Liam invested in new equipment, better ingredients, and fresh decorations. The shop's transformation surprised both old customers and new visitors. Soon, the once empty tables were filled with curious customers. Word spread quickly about the revived noodle shop in Riverside Town. Even the local newspaper wrote a glowing review about the place. Liam felt a sense of pride he hadn't experienced in years. One evening, after a particularly busy day, Mr. Felix returned. You're doing amazing, Liam, he said, clapping him on the shoulder. But remember, success needs strategy. I'll guide you further. Liam nodded, grateful for Mr. Felix's continued support. As the two discussed future plans, Liam felt his dream coming alive. He believed he was finally on the right path to making it a reality. But unknown to Liam, this new chapter was only the beginning. Liam's noodle shop quickly became the most popular spot in town. Customers lined up outside, eager to taste his signature dishes. Food critics visited and praised his creativity in their reviews. The rising star of Riverside, one article called him. Liam's chest swelled with pride, but he knew there was more to do. Encouraged by the success, Liam started dreaming of expansion. Imagine a chain of noodle shops, he told his friend Maya. Maya was happy for him but noticed his tired eyes and weary smile. Don't push yourself too hard, she said, concerned. Liam waved it off. This is my chance, Maya. I can't slow down now. However, the pressure to repay the loan soon became overwhelming. The terms demanded quick repayment, leaving little room for error. Liam found himself working long hours, often late into the night. Exhaustion began to creep in, affecting his focus and energy. Still, Mr. Felix assured him this was simply the price of success. Hard work now means freedom later, he said confidently. Liam tried to believe him, even as he struggled to keep up. His hands trembled from fatigue as he prepared bowls of noodles. Some customers began to notice his strained demeanor. Are you okay, Liam? An elderly customer asked kindly. Liam forced a smile. Just busy, but thank you for asking. Despite the challenges, Liam refused to let his dream slip away. He kept telling himself, this is temporary. I'll make it through. Late one evening, as Liam counted the day's earnings, Mr. Felix arrived. You're doing an amazing job, Mr. Felix said, his tone warm but firm. But remember, Liam, there's no success without sacrifice. Liam nodded, determined to prove himself despite the growing weight. Little did he know this relentless pace would come at a cost. One bright morning, Liam noticed something unusual. A new restaurant had opened right across the street. Its flashy sign and modern design caught everyone's attention. Curious customers started flocking to the new place. At first, Liam thought it was just another competitor. But then he heard rumors that troubled him deeply. "They're serving noodles that taste just like lambs," someone said. Liam's heart sank. How could they copy his recipes? He tried to dismiss the thought, focusing on his work instead. But over the next few days, his fears only grew stronger. Some of his most loyal customers stopped coming to his shop. "I'm sorry, Liam," one regular said. "Their prices are lower." Liam tried to hide his disappointment with a weak smile. That night, Liam sat in his empty shop feeling defeated. He confided in Mr. Felix the next morning. "Someone is stealing my recipes," Liam said, frustration in his voice. Mr. Felix frowned but quickly dismissed the concern. "Competition is normal," he said. "Focus on improving your business." "But what if someone from my staff betrayed me?" Liam asked. Mr. Felix shook his head. "Paranoia won't help you, Liam. Keep working hard. Customers will come back if you're the best." Liam wanted to believe him but couldn't shake his doubts. He decided to investigate, keeping a close eye on his staff. Every small detail seemed suspicious, fueling his unease. Despite his growing worries, Liam worked harder than ever. He experimented with new recipes and improved the shop's decor. But the stress began to take a toll on him. Late one night, Liam sat alone, staring at his dwindling profits. He thought of his parents and their hard work in the shop. "I can't let this happen," he whispered to himself. Determined, Liam vowed to uncover the truth no matter what. But deep down, he wondered if Mr. Felix was hiding something. One quiet evening, Liam stayed late at the shop. The streets outside were empty, and the lights were dim. As he cleaned the counters, he heard muffled voices nearby. Curious, Liam stepped outside to investigate. The voices were coming from the alley behind his shop. Carefully, he crept closer, his heart pounding. "I told you these recipes are gold," one voice said. Liam froze. It was unmistakably Mr. Felix's voice. "They've made your restaurant the talk of the town," he added. Another voice laughed. "Thanks to you, business is booming." Liam's stomach churned as he recognized the other voice. It belonged to the owner of the rival restaurant. "How did you even get his recipes?" the owner asked. Felix chuckled. "Simple. I earned his trust." Liam was too naive to suspect anything. Liam's hands trembled as he hid behind a stack of crates. His mind raced, piecing together the betrayal. Felix had used him to create the perfect recipes. Then he shared them with the rival restaurant for profit. "I've invested in your place," Felix continued. "Soon we'll dominate the entire local food scene." Liam felt a wave of anger and betrayal wash over him. He wanted to storm out and confront Felix, but he hesitated. Instead, he retreated back into his shop, unnoticed. Inside, Liam sat at the counter, his mind in turmoil. How could Felix, someone he trusted, betray him like this? Tears filled his eyes, but he quickly wiped them away. He couldn't afford to fall apart. Not now. "I have to do something," Liam muttered to himself. He resolved to find proof of Felix's betrayal. But first, he needed to protect his remaining customers. Liam spent the night brainstorming ways to fight back. New recipes, better promotions, anything to stay ahead. By morning, he felt a small spark of hope ignite. Felix might have betrayed him, but Liam wasn't giving up. This was his dream, and no one would take it away from him. Liam wasted no time confronting Mr. Felix the next day. He walked into Felix's office, his heart pounding with anger. "Why did you do it?" Liam demanded, his voice shaking. Felix looked up, his expression calm and collected. I don't know what you're talking about, Felix replied smoothly. You shared my recipes with the rival restaurant, Liam exclaimed. Felix leaned back in his chair, a faint smile on his lips. You're mistaken, Liam. Why would I betray you? Liam clenched his fists, frustration boiling inside him. I heard you. I know what you've done, he said firmly. Felix shrugged. You have no proof. It's just your word. Liam stood there, speechless, as Felix's words sank in. The man he trusted was denying everything without hesitation. Focus on your shop, Liam, Felix said dismissively. Dwelling on this won't help your business. Liam stormed out, his mind racing with anger and doubt. Back at the noodle shop, things were only getting worse. Customers who once filled the tables were now few and far between. The rival restaurant across the street was thriving. Their flashy signs and special deals drew everyone in. Liam stared out the window, feeling helpless and defeated. The weight of the loan payments pressed heavily on his mind. Late at night, he sat alone in the kitchen, staring at his hands. What's the point? He whispered, his voice barely audible. His dream of sharing his passion for noodles felt like a distant memory. Liam's eyes filled with tears, but he quickly wiped them away. For the first time, he considered giving up entirely. The thought of closing the shop broke his heart. But the bills were piling up, and he saw no way out. As the days passed, Liam's spirit grew weaker. Even his most loyal customers noticed the change in him. Are you okay, Liam? An old man asked one evening. Liam forced a smile and nodded, but he didn't feel okay. Deep down, he felt like he was losing everything he worked for. One night, as he locked up the shop, he sighed deeply. This can't be the end, he told himself softly. But for now, Liam couldn't see a way forward. Liam stared at the empty shop, his heart heavy with despair. The quiet evenings reminded him of better days, now long gone. As he reached for the lights, the doorbell jingled softly. Sorry, we're closed, Liam said without looking up. It's just me, Liam, a familiar voice replied. He turned to see Mrs. Huang, her kind face full of concern. Mrs. Huang, Liam said, forcing a weak smile. You don't need to be here this late. Mrs. Huang sat down at a table, her gaze steady. Liam, I've been watching everything that's happened. He sighed, pulling out a chair and sitting across from her. I don't know what to do anymore, he admitted. Mrs. Huang leaned forward, her tone calm but firm. You're a talented cook, Liam, but you need help. Liam looked at her, confused. Help? From who? She smiled. From me. I used to be a business consultant. Liam's eyes widened. You? I had no idea. I retired years ago, she said, but I see potential in you. Liam hesitated, unsure if he could trust her offer. Why would you want to help me? He asked quietly. Mrs. Huang smiled gently. Because I believe in you. Her words touched Liam, giving him a glimmer of hope. What do you suggest I do? Liam asked, his voice steady. We'll start by analyzing the competition, she said. They may have taken your recipes, but not your heart. Liam nodded, feeling a spark of determination reignite. Over the next few days, Mrs. Huang worked tirelessly. She reviewed Liam's finances, menu, and customer feedback. Your dishes are unique, she said one evening. But we need a special touch to bring people back. Liam brainstormed ideas, feeling inspired by her energy. What about a cooking class? He suggested excitedly. Mrs. Huang clapped her hands. That's brilliant, Liam. The next week, posters for Learn to Cook with Liam appeared. The idea quickly caught on, bringing new faces to the shop. Mrs. Huang guided Liam, helping him manage the growing crowd. The shop felt alive again, filled with laughter and energy. For the first time in weeks, Liam felt hope return to his heart. He looked at Mrs. Huang and said, "Thank you." She smiled warmly. "We're just getting started, Liam." The shop buzzed with excitement as Liam and Mrs. Huang planned. "We need something bold," Mrs. Huang said, tapping her pen. Liam nodded. "What about a cooking challenge?" Mrs. Huang's eyes lit up. That could work. A battle of taste. The idea quickly took shape. Customers would try both noodles. Then they would vote on which they liked better. Liam felt nervous but determined. "Let's do it!" Posters were printed and the news spread like wildfire. Battle of taste. Liam's noodles versus the rival, they read. On the day of the event, the shop was packed with people. Liam stood in the kitchen, his hands slightly shaking. "Focus," Mrs. Huang said, placing a reassuring hand on his arm. "Just cook like you always do, with your heart." Liam nodded and got to work, pouring his soul into each bowl. Every noodle was cooked to perfection, the broth rich and flavorful. Meanwhile, the rival staff worked quickly, their smiles confident. As the tasting began, customers eagerly compared the dishes. Liam peeked from the kitchen, watching their reactions nervously. Some smiled, some nodded, and a few even applauded his noodles. The rivals' dishes were good, but something was missing. Liam's food told a story of resilience and passion. The crowd began casting their votes, excitement filling the air. Mrs. Huang stood beside Liam, her face calm but watchful. "You've done your best," she said softly. Finally, the votes were counted and the host took the stage. "The winner of the Battle of Taste is Liam's Noodles." The crowd erupted in cheers, and Liam felt tears in his eyes. He stepped forward, bowing deeply to thank everyone. "This isn't just my victory," he said, his voice steady. "It's a reminder that hard work and honesty can win." Mrs. Huang smiled, clapping along with the crowd. As the event ended, Liam felt a renewed sense of purpose. This was more than just a victory, it was a new beginning. The town buzzed with excitement after Liam's victory. Word spread quickly, and more customers flocked to his shop. Liam poured his energy into making every bowl special. "This is just the start," he told Mrs. Huang, smiling. Meanwhile, rumors about Mr. Felix began to surface. Former business partners came forward with shocking stories. "He's done this before," one man said in an interview. "Sabotage, lies, and deception is all part of his plan." The rival restaurant's reputation crumbled overnight. Customers turned away, unwilling to support a fraud. Liam felt no joy in their downfall, only relief. "This isn't about revenge," he said. "It's about doing right." With his business thriving, Liam began to dream bigger. He worked with Mrs. Huang to expand the shop's menu. Soon, his humble shop transformed into a cozy restaurant. "Your noodles are famous now," Mrs. Huang teased. But Liam stayed humble, remembering his struggles. Each bowl he served carried his story of perseverance. The restaurant became a place where people gathered. Families, friends, and strangers shared meals and laughter. As time passed, Liam opened more branches across town. Each one reflected his values: quality, honesty, and care. The townspeople were proud of him and his achievements. "You've inspired all of us," a customer said one day. Your story reminds us to never give up on our dreams. Liam felt grateful for the journey he had taken. He looked out at his bustling restaurant with pride. Mrs. Huang sat nearby, her smile warm and content. Thank you for believing in me, Liam said softly. She shook her head. You believed in yourself, Liam. The town continued to thrive, united by Liam's success. And as his story spread, it touched hearts far beyond. Liam's dream had become more than a restaurant. It was a symbol of hope, resilience, and integrity. As he prepared a bowl of noodles, he smiled to himself. This was not just his story, it belonged to everyone.